Morning. My name is Zac Hill. I'm the plant records specialist and taxonomist here at Juniper Level Botanic Garden. We're going to talk about ferns and I guess palms too, since they have fronds as well. So we're just going to cover a little bit of everything. So we're going to head into the garden. Well, we'll start with one of the cold hardiest palms this morning. This is a needle palm, Rhipidophyllum hystrix. This is native barely into South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi. It's hardy to about -10 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's really, really hardy. It never really forms a trunk. It's called a needle palm because at the base, the leaf bases are about foot-long spines, and they have the spines there to protect their fruit. They flower down in the middle of the spines, and they develop the spines to protect their fruit from ground sloths and giant megafauna that are no longer living in North America. So it's sort of a historic anachronism is what they call it, or that they're adapted for things that don't actually live anymore. So that's really neat. But this is, huh?
They won.
They won, yeah. No, the needle palms definitely won. Here in front of us here, this is Blechnum niponicum. It's a Japanese fern, sometimes also called Struthioperis niponica. It's a good evergreen fern from Japan. This is one we've grown for years. We don't currently sell it. It's a little bit of a pain to grow from spore because it does 2 sets of fronds. It does sterile fronds, and then it'll do these upright fertile fronds in the middle, and that's where their spores are. But it's a really nice evergreen fern from Japan. This is Dryopteris salsa McKinney. This is one of my collections from Georgia. We will be offering this eventually. This is one of the evergreen-ish native ferns. This was from a cypress swamp right off the Savannah River. This site unfortunately was logged after we visited, so it was the most magical spot I've ever been. You could smell the ferns in the air, and it was nothing but, I mean, you could see tens of thousands of these ferns as far as you could see in the understory. But luckily, it's my screen background on my computer, so I look at it every day here at work. But this is a great one for Burke County, Georgia. We will offer it eventually, but it does well in average soil despite having grown in water in the wild.
How hardy?
It's probably a zone 6 would be my guess. I mean, it's pretty tough.
Does it stay that upright all season?
It stays very upright all season, and then in the winter it does recline a little bit, but most of the season they are very upright. So above us, this is a Trachycarpus fortunei. This is the Chusan palm, or Chinese fan palm. This one is one of the this is the form that came out of the Myers Park area of Charlotte. It's one of the hardier clones or strains of Trachycarpus that we have. They're really beautiful. They're in that neighborhood. They're much larger than this, and everybody's got them in their yards. It's a really neat, hardy. Zone 7A maybe, hardy to about 0. They're pretty fast growing. This one is only 24 years old, and it's 20 some feet tall. So it's a really good one. We're gonna move this way. For a good evergreen traveling sort of fern. This is Woodwardia unigemata pingwu. It's a Chinese species. It's evergreen, but it's called unigemata because it forms these little gemme propagules on the tips of the fronds, and they'll get a lot bigger than this. They'll get, you know, a decent size to start to grow, but they'll touch down and start another one. So it moves itself along. We usually grow this one from clonal divisions because it's so easy. The fronds can get, I don't know, 4.5, 5 foot long eventually. Here beside it, this is a deciduous fern. This is Diplasium maximum. This one can get about 4.5 feet tall eventually. It's a really large Chinese fern. Let's see. So this is Arachniodes standishii Mount Dyson. This is one we offer. It's the upside down fern. It's called the upside down fern because the fronds look like they should be facing the other way, because they all point downward rather than upward. This one is, I believe this is Korean. This is a U.S. National Arboretum collection from the 40s. So this is a really neat form of Arachniodes standishii.
That's evergreen?
It's mostly evergreen to mid singles, and then it'll get a little browned out in the winter, but we usually cut it back late March here in Raleigh. But it's great. It doesn't run terribly, and it forms nice big clumps. So years ago, Tony used some chemicals on just the normal Trichocarpus fortunei and doubled its chromosomes and killed a lot of them when he was treating them with the chemical. But the seedlings that survived, they're twice the size trunk, and, you know, more massive. This one's been in the ground the same amount of time as the other one, so since 2000. So it's 24 years old in the ground, but it's super hardy. Another good evergreen fern, this is Dryopteris kinkiensis. It's from Japan and China. It's got really good texture and it's very sturdy. We've offered this in the past. Really nice scales on the stipes, the stems of the fern. Fully evergreen for us. Some of these are actually last year's leaves. This is a new frond from this year, but just really, really, really sturdy. So over here, well, actually we'll go right here. We got both sides. So this is Sable minor McCurtain on both sides here. This is from McCurtain County, Oklahoma. This is also one of the hardier species of palms. It's never going to form a trunk really, but really hardy. There's good reports of growing in zone 6 of this one.
How much sun can it take?
It will take full sun to full shade. And it's super rock solid hardy. It flowers. It has a big scape of flowers that will be up over the path, and it will be covered in English pea-sized fruit in like late September, October. So it's really good. Behind Chris is a really interesting sable. This is Sable Birmingham. This was a palm that was planted in Birmingham, Alabama. We don't know exactly what species it is, but it's one of the hardier of the trunk forming sables. These are all seedlings from that one original plant in Birmingham. I think it was about 20 feet tall. Survived a lot of the really horrible freezes mid 1900s. But there's some really large ones at JC Park in Raleigh, and then there's a few at Pullen Park.
How big does this one get?
This is a mature plant, so the leaves are about 5 feet tall.
Hardiness on this?
This one, it's like a zone 6. There's been pretty good, There's people growing it all over the Midwest. So it's one of the more cold tolerant sable species. And then its cousin, this is Sable brazoriensis. This is from East Texas. It's another sort of trunk forming species or hybrid. It's thought to be possibly ancient hybrids between Sable mexicana and minor or palmetto. It's a weird species. They've done some DNA work on it. It will form a short trunk over time, and it's a zone 7 plant. Sometimes they burn a little bit here in the garden. So we're going to talk about this Adiantum capillus veneris banksianum. This is a cultivar of Maidenhair fern. This is the southern Maidenhair fern. It's a really good semi-evergreen ground covery type Adiantum. It gets, about a foot tall, but it just sort of spreads out. This species is native in practically every continent that's warm enough to house it. It's in Africa, it's in Australia, Asia, Europe, South America, North America. It's up into like North Dakota and Colorado around some hot springs. It's found here in North Carolina down on Lake Waccamaw is the only spot in the state that you can find it. It's a state listed species, but really widespread species. We've got all sorts of collections from Crete and from Bermuda and South Africa, and it's one of Tony's pet projects. He wants to collect this species from as many populations as we can to see how they grow, because some of them grow differently. We've got some that were from the hill country of Texas, where they grow in like springs in these sinkholes, and then it's just a really neat. It grows on the Bermuda form is actually in Wilmington, grows in the cracks of the buildings in downtown with Terrace vittata and Terrace multifida. So some other ferns that it grows with. And while we're on adiantums, this one back here with the larger pinnae, this is Adiantum Lawrencei Salta Splendor from Argentina. It's one of Tony's Argentine collections. So that's a good, it's a zone 7B. It's kind of marginal for us, but it's done really well. And then here's another Adiantum capillus veneris. This one's from Guadalupe County, Canyon, Texas. So just another form from there. So another really good fern for shade, wet to dry, is the Cystopteris protrusa. It's a bladder fern, or this is one, it sort of creeps rhizomatously. I think we may be selling this one right now. It's a native. It gets about a foot tall and just multiplies really well for us.
Semi-evergreen?
That one goes down in the winter, but it's...
We got 8B.
It might hold some leaves for you in 8B. And I mentioned the Terrace earlier. This is Terrace multifida, or Cretica, Pingwu. This is a Chinese selection that's semi-evergreen. It's got these really, really finely dissected fronds that are just very long and slender. This one's a good, mostly evergreen species for us. This is one of Tony's, I believe it's Tony's collection. No, this is one of Hans Hansen's collections from China, from Pingwu. We've got a lot of things that Hans collected from Pingwu. The Thalepteris, which one is this? Or they may have changed the name. This is Thalepteris decursiva pinnata from another Chinese collection from Hans. This was one of the Thalepteris. They are taxonomists are playing move the genera around in the Thalepterus group. This one is not Thalepterus any longer. This may actually be one of the only Thalepterus left. Everything else is Amorapelta or Palazoneuron. It's complicated. It's complicated fernage. And here's another good native. This is Adiantum pedatum. This is iron. Oh no. This is one of the pedatum cultivars. Spatabilis. This is northern maidenhair fern. It's a deciduous species, and it grows all the way up pretty far north. It's throughout most of the eastern U.S., usually in locations that have some higher calcium, like sweeter soils. I've seen it growing on some really alkaline soil on a bluff, sort of near the McKinney Dryopteris, but it was growing on these calcium bluffs where it was just hanging off the bluffs. It was really neat. And another really good native is over here. This is one of our native polystichums. This is Polystichum acrosticoides, Christmas fern. It's evergreen. If there's any woods anywhere around that are still, they're not terribly disturbed, this is going to be there. Dry pine woods, dry, deciduous forests. It's everywhere, and it's a really good garden plant. It's fully evergreen, and normally polystichums are not ones we can grow here, but the West Coast has a lot of species. We just have basically the one. But they do vary. We have some really big ones, we have some really small ones, some golds, some cresteds, but they're just great garden plants for us. And obviously they take quite a bit of sun. This is sun most of the day here, because east is that way. So it gets all morning sun, and it gets some shade towards the evening, but they're just really rock solid garden plants, dry to wet. It doesn't really matter. And I can't leave out the Japanese painted ferns, some of the Athyriums. This is Athyrium niponicum burgundy lace. This is one of the named cultivars, but I mean, just purple and ferns is really neat. Purple and silver and ferns. The only drawback on this, it's deciduous, so it's gonna lose its fronds in the winter, but it's a slowly moving, not terribly, and we haven't found it to be terribly invasive here in the garden. Some people say it's invasive, but it's not really as bad as people make it out to be. Oh yeah, the Podophyllum standing tall, that's one of our hybrids. Yeah, and the Cypripedium Dietrich that's in bloom.
Nice corner.
I wish we could get that one again, because that Dietrich's been in the ground for since 2012. So we've actually divided that clump of Cypripedium Dietrich. But that's one of the ones that they offered a few times, and they haven't really had that one in stock since. And it's weird, because it's really been an amazing garden plant for us here. For Cypripediums, normally don't like our climate. So if you've got sunny spots, this is Pellia viridis. This is one of the South African collections. Grows in full baking sun. It also will take some shade, obviously. But if you've got rock gardens, I know some of you do, the Pellia viridis is a really good, mostly evergreen, zone 7 fern. We are offering, I think, at least one of these right now, but really sturdy. This is another one that's been in the taxonomic tug of war. It's been a Chilanthes, it's been a Pellia, it's been hemianitis, we're calling it Pellia. It's probably something that's going to be even beyond that as something other than Terrace or Pellia, but it's a really good sun fern. And another really good sun fern, this is Chilanthes bonariensis or Myriopteris aurea. This is one from Arizona. It's a evergreen lip fern, but this one is just, we want to offer this. We've had it in the ground for...
Oh, you don't offer it now?
No, we're not currently selling it. This has been in the ground for 5 years. We're working on this one. We're working on this one.
I'll come dig it up.
But this is one, it's a pretty widespread Chilanthes type thing, but full sun most of the day, does great. The Dryopteris back here is another great one. This is Dryopteris tokyoensis. It's sort of tardily deciduous, but it's got these weird, really truncated fronds that go really wide and stand up really tall. We've offered this in the past. It's a great one for us. It's great. It's just, oh yes. That is Onychium japonicum filigree. This is a cat's claw fern. They're really finely dissected. This is, they're Asian, mostly Chinese, but mostly evergreen until we get to about mid-teens, and then it burns a little bit, but comes right back. It's just super fine textured, and it's got weird sori on the back of the fronds.
You offer this one?
We don't yet. We're growing that from spore. This is from a customer. That's a crested Christmas fern from somewhere here in Wake County that a customer gave us years ago. We're growing some from spore. It seems to come fairly true from spore. So like I mentioned earlier, we did have crested forms, but yeah, it's a really interesting form of Christmas fern. It's bizarre. The Brits would love it. This little fern here in the cracks, this is an Asplenium trichomones variety quadrivalens. This is from Ayudog in Crimea. We have a friend in Russia that he's sent us a lot of fern spore over the years. This is one from one of his collections. He goes all over, and he spends all summer, because he lives in some really horribly cold spot in Siberia, and he goes out to like Kamchatka and collects, and he posts all kinds of pictures on Facebook. It's amazing, but this is a really good one for us. We've killed this before, but the stuff from him from Crimea seems to have a little more heat tolerance in the rock garden. It's another one we would like to offer in the future. But
what's the growing conditions on that one?
On that, sun to shade, dry to wet. Wow. It's pretty tolerant. I mean, obviously we didn't plant it in the crevices, right, but it's moved its way into them, so it doesn't. We do have a little bit of a seepage here, but it's dry up that way. We've got this on the side of Mount Michel. We've got it up by the entrance. It's in sun. It gets pretty hot up by Sauls. So I mean, it should do well down in the sandhills.
Okay, it looks so lush.
Yeah, no, it's a very lush, and we grow ferns from spore. Oh no, this is keratoides. This is another Asplenium, Asplenium scalopendrium keratoides. This is another species of Asplenium that's found. It's in North America, it's in Mexico, it's in Europe, in Japan, I think even in South Africa there's a population. It's hart's tongue fern. Mm-hmm. It's a long, undivided. The British have perfected the art of selecting the most bizarre forms of this fern. This is one of these crested, divided cristate species. This is keratoides. We actually grew some Japanese spore from Tom Mitchell's collection and ended up with a really nice crested form as well, and I believe it's down here. But while we're here, this is Polypodium mantoniae. It's vulgare by interjectum. This is one of the hybrid polypodies, and it is sort of evergreenish, but it's done really well for us here in the crevice, and it gets very little moisture. It's not one we offer yet, but it's one that takes a special site. We're trying all these ferns to see what we can kill and what we can't kill. So, and then so another good sun fern, we actually have two here. We have, this is Neolepisaurus fortunei green ribbons. This is evergreen to about 10. It's another undivided fern. Does spore on the back of the fronds. They're starting to form in little nodes here. It's great evergreen, good for sun, good for shade. It doesn't care. But this one has done really well for us here. Up here in the top, this is Perosia petiolosa, taste of China. This one, our Russian friend also has seen this in northern Russia. It's hardy to like zone 5, so like negative 15 to 20. This is a Chinese selection. We've got friends growing it in Denver. But it's a really short epiphytic to lithophytic, like grows on rocks fern, but good in normal garden soil as well. But it's just a really nice evergreen tongue fern. Whoop. Another good Chilanthes, this is Ecloniana. Naughty's neck, this is a South African collection of lip fern. So this is one of Tony's collections from South Africa when he went, I think in 2005. So we've killed it in most places, but it really does like this rock garden sort of conditions. So not just ferns for shade here, but ferns that get the heck baked out of them all summer. Let's see. And where's the next? We had and so not all of the Chilanthes are native South Africa. This one is actually native here in North Carolina. This is Myriopterus or Chilanthes tomentosa. This is one from Tom Goforth. It's from upstate South Carolina, where it was growing on some rocks. But this is native. I think there's maybe a couple populations here in Wake County as well. But mostly full sun, bake it, it's great. It reflushes, gets about a foot tall through the season. Oh my God. Echinopsis ancestriflora. So this is from Santa Ana and Jujuy, Argentina. But that's a really nice cactus. This has been in the ground for 5 years now. So, and it blooms every year about this time and just completely hardy. Go figure. This is Strutheopteris spicant, the deer fern. This is from Oregon, but normally plants from Oregon don't like it here. They usually hate our climate, but this particular clone has done really well. I think it was from Lane County, Oregon. But these are all its fertile fronds and its sterile fronds.
You offer that one?
We're working on building numbers on that one as well. But this has been in the ground for over a decade. So normally plants from the West Coast, usually as soon as we get hot in the summer, they're like, peace out, I'm gonna die for you. So this one, we found stuff from like the Siskiyous on the West Coast, like Northern California and southwestern Oregon, are really adapted to growing here in North Carolina. So thank you for coming. as we look at fronds not just in the shade but in the sun too. So.